Hey Jeff, how are you?
Well, Rachel, how are you?
Doing great. So to start, one of my favorite movie going experiences of this year so far has been sitting with a bunch of journalists watching Imaginary because all of us just kept going, Chauncey. And it was like a sea of journalists saying this bear's name repeatedly.
I love it. I love it.
When, when you are making something that is an original horror movie, but is also kind of in that weird middle ground of horror, but a horror movie that you can show a younger generation of horror fans, how do you find those scarier moments knowing that the more seasoned horror fans are still going to be frightened of those while showing it to like my teenage niece who's obsessed with horror movies?
I mean, look, it's all about what you don't see, right? It's
Hmm.
speaking of, I just covered the lines. Yeah, it's all about what you don't see. And that works for young audiences and old audiences. I would offer that it actually works better than showing too much. I mean, there's a reason why Jaws is a classic because you see so little. And so I just try to keep as much of it as off camera as possible.
Yeah, I hated that thing looming in the house. I was like, no, I hate this thing because I don't know where it is. And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, it was fine. But the whole time I was like, this thing is gonna jump.
And I
And
did a lot of shots that included him that aren't in the final film. So what I would do is, if I was shooting a scene and I had a shot or something where he could be there, I would have him scheduled to be there, and I would do a take without him and then a take with him. And I would say only about half the moments that included him are actually in the film.
when it works, and I asked everyone this question, but it's my favorite thing to ask about this movie. The end when they're in those stairs reminds me a lot of Labyrinth
Yes, of course.
because the stairs are all over the place, and all I think like I was like, where's the crystal ball and David Bowie? It
Yeah.
fits.
No, it's a major influence for us for sure.
Oh, I love that. I just got a labyrinth tattoo. Like, so I'm obsessed with it. But one of my, like, I love that whole sequence. And I love the idea of you opening a door and you can go anywhere. Granted, in that world, maybe not so great. But if you could open a door and end up anywhere, where would you end up?
If I could open a door and end up anywhere,
Yeah.
um, that's a great question. I would be nervous because you never get exactly what you want, right? You got to be careful what you wish for, and that's one of the lessons of imaginary.
Mhm.
So I would be very anxious about opening that door and imagining something that could be on the other side. If I could get it without a catch 22, I would probably want to see my mom again. I lost my mom when when I was in my early 20s. But I would also be very nervous that it wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to. So actually, I think I would probably not open the door.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's like I would open it to see my dad, and then it'd be like, actually, he's evil Jeff Bridges because they looked alike. It's not actually your father.
I don't know. I think I would maybe just let the doors stay closed.
When one of this movie is very funny to me in a lot of ways because I love that this dad. I said to Dwanda when we did the initial interviews, I consider her the breadwinner. I
Mhm,
don't think that this man is making as a musician on tour.
mhm.
But when you do kind of have this character who his whole thing is like, yeah, I'm trying to blend my family and make it work, and then he just
Peace out.
leaves. Yeah, he just pieces out. Did you guys have any conversations about including him, or was it funnier to just be like, no, I'm leaving, I'm going on tour, see you guys later, you'll figure it out?
We knew we had to get rid of him, that it was ultimately a story of a stepmother and her two stepdaughters.
Yeah.
And it's one of the challenges as a storyteller when you have a dramatic need, a dramatic box you need to check. How do you get there sometimes, right? It's not always organic or obvious. And you need to do it in a way where the audience just doesn't go, ah, come on, right? Um, and so many bad choices are made because of for a good reason. So like when audiences are rolling their eyes or throwing up their hands like that's so unbelievable. Why would anyone do it? Well, they're doing it because we got to get to this other point in the story that's actually significant. And the filmmakers just couldn't figure out how to do it in a way that would stop the audience from rolling their eyes. Um, I think we landed on the best compromise possible was that, he loved his family. He wasn't abandoning them, but it was clearly a family of creatives. There was something that between Max and Jessica that allowed them to fall in love. And I think it has a lot to do with a shared creative passion. And I think she was, supporting her husband. And everyone was doing the best they could. I mean, trust me, if you really analyze, like, why doesn't he just get on a plane and come home and Alice goes missing? I mean, we shot a whole scene where Jessica called him and told him that Alice was missing, but we were like, it just shines too much of a light on why he isn't there, and so we ended up cutting the scene.
Yeah, and also there were moments in this movie where I was like, I would be the only survivor in this because everyone is doing things that I'm like, yeah, of course you're gonna die. You're in a basement, not turning around and looking in every dark corner. But that issue was so big with me and that neighbor. I was like, why are you trusting this lady?
Yeah, but we tried to design it in a way, and I do think it works. You're a particularly savvy film goer, obviously, but we tried to make her seem threatening at first, so that then it felt like the turn was, oh no, she's actually on our team. She's actually a good guy. So the audience would go, oh, okay, that's the turn. So then when she turned back, it was a little bit more surprising. But yes, savvy film goers will see that one.
Yeah, I was like, guys, you can't be trusting this old lady. Like, what is she gonna do?
Yeah.
The other part I loved about seeing this in a group of critics is when the CBs were popping up everywhere, they were like, it's gonna be Chauncey Bear. Like we were all talking, being like, it's gonna be this. Let's go. It's Chauncey Bear. But it does make me excited because I'm like, I want to see a world of imaginary friends. Tegan was like, it's gonna be Alice's imaginary friend who looks like a human. I was like, I like that it's just always on Alice to destroy.
By the way, you're about to see a movie full of imaginary friends called If, that's going to be in theaters.
Yeah, we're in that imaginary world.
Yeah.
But if you couldn't continue like not only Chauncey Bear's story, but this imaginary universe, what for you would be kind of the draw of coming back to that and telling another story within that world?
I mean, look, we didn't call the movie Chauncey, all right? We called the movie Imagine for a reason, because it is more of a movie about imagination than just this one sort of evil entity. So I guess if you're asking me if there are any other stories I could tell about imagination, I mean, it's limitless. It literally is limitless. So yeah, there's a lot of very cool and scary things we could do if we continue to tell stories in this world.
Yeah, and I would love to see it. I have one last question, and it's about Chauncey Bear's arms because Big Chauncey's hands made me lose it because he was so big and his hands hung like this. And I loved him because of it. And I was like, I would probably die because I would want to go hug Chauncey because
He had like knives for claws. I don't know what
he was sitting like this.
You talking about the bear beast?
The bear beast's arms were like this, and I was obsessed with him.
Okay.
When you are crafting a bear beast, which is supposed to still look like a childhood stuffed bear, but just ginormous.
Huh?
What were elements that you wanted to keep of that bear like alive within Chauncey's?
Definitely the asymmetry. You know, like there's the hero bear right there. See him?
Yeah, I love him.
So you see how his eyes are asymmetrical, his ears are asymmetrical. That was important to keep with all the different iterations of him.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. I am obsessed with Chauncey Bear. I loved Imaginary very, very much. And thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, it was my pleasure. Thank you for being such a supporter. It really means a lot.